do the demonic spirits, the fallen angels, share in any of the limitations that we do? And I would start by saying, to understand the demonic, first you've got to understand the angelic. What's an angel? Okay? An angel is a messenger and a minister. They're created beings, so they're not equal to God. They don't share all of God's attributes, so a demon can't be everywhere present, omnipresent. They're not all-knowing, right? God knows our thoughts. I don't think Satan and demons know our thoughts. Fallen angels have all of the same attributes, characteristics, limitations of an angel, but now they have become corrupt. They have become rebellious, and the Bible suggests or says that it's a third of the heavenly host was cast down. And what I was trying to emphasize is they don't share the limits. So in comparison to God, they don't share God's attributes. They're not equal to God in any way. But compared to us, they also don't share some of the limits of our humanity. There are certain things for us just dwelling in a physical body that just leaves limitations, like aging, getting sick, being injured. A spirit being that doesn't have the physical limitations doesn't share in some of those physical limitations. And where you're talking about that they're like when a demon is cast out of a man in one occasion, and then it's actually a legion of demons, and then they're cast into a herd of pigs. I actually was there. I actually was on that geographical location, and so it was unclean spirits sent into unclean animals. Right? Because in that Jewish culture, the pigs were unclean animals, and then they, run off and headlong, and it's total chaos and it's death and devastation. But what's even interesting there, according to the archaeologists that I was there with, that man who was demonized by a legion and then came into his right mind when he was delivered, the story of the history outside of the Bible is that he actually he went into town and people got saved and they planted a church. They planted a church on the place where the man was delivered from the demonic possession. And over time, it actually outgrew it. And you could see the ruins of one church, which was a small church, and a large church that was next to it. And a whole bunch of pagans got saved because of his testimony. It was kind of interesting to be there because we read the story in the Bible, and then you're not sure what happened after that. And you get there and you see, wow, his testimony was so powerful of his deliverance that a whole bunch of people who were being tormented, they too were delivered. And so, just for you all, there is some power in our testimony. And sometimes people are oppressed, or they're addicted, or they're in slavery, or they're tormented. Something very dark is haunting them and overtaking their life. And as we are able to share stories of deliverance and freedom and things that God has done in our life, it gives hope and encouragement to others who didn't even know that was a possibility. And so when you also use the analogy of like demons wanting some rest, it's not that they're tired, it's that they're dealing now with the presence and the power of God, and they're starting to deal with some of the consequences of justice coming upon them. And so there is the occasion in the scriptures where there's this discussion around the demonic about the time of their judgment. Right? And so they're experiencing some of the early unveiling of their judgment for their rebellion. But it's not fully come to what the Bible will call the white throne judgment in Revelation 20, where there's sort of the final judgment and the final sentencing. And so sometimes when you see the demonic beings in the Bible that are wanting some rest, it's because they're beginning to experience the torment that comes upon them by God's judgment and presence. In the same way that demons will torment people, as God's presence and power comes in, then the demons are the ones who start to feel tormented. It's almost like light dispels darkness. And now the light comes and they're starting to feel the pain of the light because they're entirely committed to darkness. It's not the same, and I want to be very careful with this, but in almost a goofy way, but like, we're on the precipice of Halloween, and it's almost like, there's this thought of vampires. If you turn the lights on, it torments them. I don't believe in all of that, but just by way of illustration, something that is totally dark, totally evil, totally sinister, when the light comes, it feels tormented by the same thing that you and I feel comforted by. It feels harmed by the same thing that we feel healed by. And so for the believer in the presence of God, you're like, finally the light has come. Finally there is healing. Finally there is life. And for that which is demonic, satanic, and evil, it is as tormenting to them as a demon is to a child of God.